Now before I start, I'm going to start with asking you a question. What is the correct dictionary spelling of ass? Is it A-R-S-E or A-S-S? Answers on a postcard or in the description below. Fact of the matter is, A-S-S is a stubborn donkey, and I'm not posting a video about a stubborn donkey. A-R-S-E, it sounds like a bit of a curse word, and Mom, if you are watching, you know I don't curse, so I do apologize if you are offended. Now, I could do a video about my butt, but it's not the most masculine thing to talk about your butt, okay? I ain't talking about my butt. But, see what I did there? We can go into our glutes. Now, this is where the confusing starts, because the glute is a complex of 3 muscle fibers. The glute medius, glute minimus, and you got your glute maximus. And you can do exercises which isolates one of the 3, maybe even 2 of them, but then you won't get the desired look. You want to get that nice rounded butt where you develop all of them, particularly the glute maximus. So which exercises will develop them? Now, I lost my butt or my ass, whatever you want to call it, because I was doing way too much kettlebell swinging. Now, I'm going to stop you there before you start to throw pelters at me, because kettlebell swinging is fine. It's a great exercise, but I loved me some kettlebell swinging and I did too much of it. So when you do too much of one particular exercise, of course you're going to develop some kind of postural distortion. You need to counter it with the exercise you don't like doing. I didn't want to do the exercise that countered it. So I ended up with this posterior pelvic tilt. I already talked about in my previous video about why I quit kettlebell swinging. And as I stood, I would stand and I would feel my torso tilting backwards past my midline. And if you see a photograph of my butt or my ass, it didn't look very good, particularly in jogging pants. I looked like I had those poopy pants where there's nothing going on in there. So emergency, let's develop my ass. Now, it took about 3 weeks to get it back, and I'm pleased now. I'm no longer ashamed of my ass. And these were the exercises that I did that worked for me. All right, so let's start with my first one, which is the squat. The squat exercise should be part of every single person's regime. All right, because look at me, I'm sat down right now squatting, but I'm using something to support me, and that is a chair. Therefore, it's something that's supporting me. The muscles that are supposed to naturally support me are being neglected. Also, look at how I get myself up. I will put my hand down on the house of the arm chair to push myself up, so I'm not firing those muscles to get myself upright as well. So we need to start pretending that there's a chair there and start practicing our squat. No matter what age you are, you need to be squatting. Now, of course, you might not be able to get down into a deep squat, but we can start shallow and work our way down as long as we're keeping ourselves moving in that direction. Just be careful that you are doing the right squat and not compensating by getting onto your toes. So you want to keep your heels planted to the ground, and you want to keep your toes pointing in a direction where your knees can drive in the same direction as your second and your third toe. That's the correct squat. And of course, you want to make sure your feet are at shoulder width apart. Now, as we want to get the bigger butt, we want to use more weight, because that's what we're trying to achieve, hypertrophy. So you need something with weight bearing. Yeah? So I would recommend, because most people don't have a barbell to pull over their backs to create a back squat, I would use like a sandbag. You can get sandbags very cheap nowadays, or if you've got a couple of kettlebells, not swinging it this time, you can hold it by your shoulders, secure it nicely and push upwards, so drive upwards. Again, you want to make sure that you are fatiguing round about 8 to 12 reps and repeating it 3 times those sets to get that hypertrophy look. Okay, now the next one is the lunge. Now there are many variations of lunges. Okay, you can lunge in a step lunge where you just go on one spot and come back to where you started, or you can stagger it when you walk, so you can walk forward, front feet, the back foot level with the front foot, or you can go into big strides. And it was the stride that I found to be the most effective. However, when I work with clients who have dodgy knees, they can't tend to do the stride. So by all means, go and do the stagger step. But that's not the way we walk, is it? We don't walk and level our feet out and then step again and level your feet out. You want to get that to that point where you're doing those big giant strides. When you are striding, of course, you don't want to be walking where one foot is in front of the other. Yeah, walk like we normally would do, Okay, so the feet are on a track as we walk forward, and you want to drive forward with the front foot. The front foot that's driving you forward, not pushing off the back foot, which leads on to the next one, which is the step up. The same principles apply. All right, you want to bear some weights if you want to on that one, but this one you don't necessarily have to. You can still get that development without it. Okay, but again, you want to make sure that it's the front leg that's driving you upwards. Again, you can get different variations of your step up, because you can step up and then bring that standing foot, the foot that's on the platform, back down. But again, for me, I just kept it up there, pushed upwards, and sometimes not even put the trailing leg on the platform. It would just hover there. Okay, again, it depends on whether you're capable of doing it, but make sure you control the way it lands downwards. You don't want to just bounce and land, and that way control your landing as you come back downwards. Right? Now, the Bulgarian split squat. The Bulgarian split squat is something that I find with most of my new clients, they really struggle with that one, but it does a whole lot for your confidence once you're able to do it. And you can do it without weight first, or you can even use a suspension trainer like a TRX to hold it. It will challenge your balance, that one. Or you can of course get to the point where you're just using something nice and stable like a platform, and you've got a weight by your hands and you're pushing upwards in that way. Just make sure again that the front leg is in a square position in front of the body and not too close to the platform. Otherwise you'll be targeting the wrong muscles, and it can really put a lot of tension on the knees, which is what you don't want. Two more exercises. We've got the hip thrust, which is with the weights. Okay, you can again, you could try it without weights, but it's not going to do a whole lot of good unless you sort of lift one of the legs. You can do a single leg one, and then you can thrust that way if you haven't got any weights, or you can put weights on your waist. Just make sure that when you do put it on your waist, you put it when you're sitting down on the ground first, and then you can push yourself upwards. And when you push up, you want to get that tabletop look. All right, so you don't want to thrust yourself so you've got that excessive pelvic extension. You don't want that. So you want to make sure we reach to the top, nice and level, square, tight, squeeze the butt, and then come down again. And when I do my exercises, I try not to sit down on the floor. And again, it's entirely up to you. It's all about progression. Finally, every single exercise I've done has been on the sagittal plane. So we're moving forwards and backwards. So this exercise, we can do the exercise laying down on the ground and just lifting, almost like some Jane Fonda exercise, but I love this one. So we use a resistance band, and you do side steps, and you just move 2 steps to the right, 2 steps to the left, or maybe 1 step to the right, 1 to the left, and you really feel that on your glutes. So those are my recommendations for you to try. Okay, I'd love to get your feedback on what works for you, or maybe you might suggest ones that are even better. But as always, we're going to work together to make sure that we do feel great, look good, and enjoy moving. I'll see you in the next video post. And of course, yes, I also forgot to mention, please start liking and subscribing. That will help me a whole deal. See you then.